She's not dead, nor has she gone bust. Well, no more than usual. But if 43 plus years tells us anything about Cassandra Peterson, aka Elvira, she's not about to throw in the towel. You've entered the Gen Experience. I'm Victor, and like the rest of my generation, I was enamored at the overtly sexual but always cheerful, witty, and mysterious character with a Valley Girl twist. Hurling quips and double entendres, Elvira never came across as a trashy floozy, but simply comfortable in her own skin. Or anybody else's, for that matter.
Presenting Elvira.
That gal full of dash whose terms are strictly cash.
She's hosted Halloween for decades and has been the face of the holiday for 2 generations. Once crowned the Queen of Halloween by a silver bullet. No, not that one. This one. Elvira's success didn't come from just a great pair of boobs.
It was also an incredible pair of legs.
Well, and some serious business savvy. Let's summit those haunted hills of Elvira's career in the full story of the Mistress of Marketing and Halloween. It's simply too daunting for me to cover her whole career, and you'd probably quit watching my video before getting to the good stuff if I did. Most of us could only dream of having the adventures Cassandra Peterson had prior to donning the bewitching and iconic costume of hedonistic heroine Elvira. From Vegas to Elvis, Bond Girl to album cover, Peterson could write a book. Oh wait, she did. A number of them, to be frank. Yours cruelly, Elvira, is just the newest of this bombshell's literary gifts to her fans. But more on those a little later, I promise. Elvira's story started when she was a foundling. Wait, that's not right. Started as a groundling. In 1979, she joined the Los Angeles-based improvisational troupe, The Groundlings. Working with the likes of Phil Hartman, Edie McClurg, and Paul Rubens, Peterson created a Valley Girl-type character upon whom the Elvira persona is largely based. Like any out-of-work actress, she was also looking for a paying job. Although she was number 2 for the role of Ginger Grant in the Gilligan's Island movie, she unfortunately was passed by, and the production lost any chance to be remembered. However, her open call audition for late night horror hostess got attention for KHJ-TV Los Angeles. It had been 6 years since Sinister Seymour passed away, and his late night hosting gig, Fright Night, went off the air. The station was looking to resurrect the idea for the library of thousands of old films they owned, but with some fresh meat. And there's no one as fresh as Elvira. Cassandra's first attempt at the incarnation, a hostess modeled after Sharon Tate's character in the movie Fearless Vampire Hunters, didn't work for the station. So working with her best friend Robert Redding, she came back with a slightly dangerous and provocative look. But juxtaposed with Cassandra's own characterization of a sassy girl from the valley, just saying whatever comes to mind, but with a satirical and titillating humor. Elvira was an instant success, and her gorgeous look combined with crass charm of a sarcastic goth girl next door was exactly what audiences were looking for. They just didn't know it. Elvira's the ghoul who never goes too far. Well, never all the way, but perpetually on third base and ready to steal home. Peterson's Elvira character, who made a splash in LA, then the world, started a decades-long love affair with the flirtatious and beguiling Mistress of the Dark. Making a name for herself with her show Elvira's Movie Macabre, she elevated the horror host genre and made it more mainstream. Perfecting the craft she would initially be known for, Elvira wasn't even credited as Cassandra Peterson. Elvira developed into a persona of her own, and for much of her early career, Peterson could not only go through life relatively unnoticed on the street, but could also appear in films without being typecast. Clever girl. It wouldn't take long before she realized this character could be her bread and butter. It was Elvira the public wanted more of, and she was willing to give it up. During her 5-season run on Movie Macabre, people took notice. People like those at a Southern California staple, Knott's Berry Farm. In 1982, Knott's Scary Farm, the park's annual Halloween event, presented the first Elvira Mistress of the Dark show in the Ghoul Time Theater. This pairing of the then 10-year-old Halloween haunt with Elvira's sarcastic brand of Valley Girl delivery and music parody was a perfect match and drove attendance for the park. She continued her day job as a horror hostess, or was that the night shift? Either way, Elvira's look had morphed into the more well-defined design we know today. From the hairstyle to the new belt, the Mistress of the Dark was more recognizable than other local celebrities, and that was on full display when she appeared on Chips in '82, The Fall Guy in 1984, and her numerous appearances on The Tonight Show. Her television show, the Knott's Live Halloween event, and guest appearances as Elvira only promoted more awareness of the character with the devil-may-care attitude and mysterious moniker. But nothing would skyrocket her fame at the time better than when movie Macabre passed the threshold needed to be syndicated. LA's Secret was out, seen across the country on various networks in syndication. Starting in 1984, the world got to know her, and all of a sudden, she belonged to all of us. Although Cassandra would be featured in TV and movies like Fantasy Island and Beyond Westworld, Sans Elvira makeup, and in full redheaded glory, the character of Elvira became all-encompassing. It was more than a character, it was a way of life for Peterson. Continuing her influence and making her presence known in new and even risky ventures, Elvira was a full-time gig that rarely afforded Peterson a chance to breathe. And you thought it was just the restrictive dress and push-up bra. Never one to rest on her laurels, she worked harder and smarter to stay relevant by taking chances, and any gig that would pay her. Have her. As her celebrity status grew, she wasn't going to be stuck in the horror host box, but instead, a coffin. Developing the persona, Cassandra embraced Elvira, and she became more and more established and well-known. And how could you miss her? With a couple of great big opportunities knocking, Peterson never looked back.
What knockers?
Oh, thank you, Doctor.
One of those knockers was MTV, and it was a match made in the underworld with Elvira's MTV Halloween party on October 31st, 1984, where she hosted skits and music videos. She also looked into the future, and the following year began one of the many straight-to-video endeavors called Thriller Videos. These were British titles from Hammer House of Horror and the Thriller TV show featuring Elvira giving full camp humor and sex appeal for the popular home video horror series in the heyday of VHS rentals. After a nice cameo in her friend's film, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, 1986 saw the plug pulled on movie Macabre. But Peterson wasn't reclining on the couch waiting for offers. She had already been planting seeds of success outside of public access. Syndication may have brought her recognition. Yeah, I know it's not a word, but you get it. But prior to the final episode, Cassandra Peterson had made certain she was leaving with full and complete intellectual trademark rights to the character. This $350 a week gig took only a few years to become her most lucrative creation, and the decision to copyright her character and have total control was the most important decision she had made early on. This was pivotal for her future and very shrewd. 100% merchandising rights meant as long as she was in the public eye, she would benefit and could earn a steady income. The business side of Elvira just went public. But merchandise alone was not going to keep the lights on. Exiting stage left, Elvira was met with advertising gold just waiting in the wings. Coors Light would crown her the Queen of Halloween. This teaming had Coors adultifying Halloween more than ever, and Elvira making a career out of the holiday that would be hallmark to her continued success. The initial TV spots for the beer were an instant hit.
Whoa, it's like deja vu. Whoa, it's like deja vu.
But the relationship with the brewmeister was almost instantly rocky. Admittedly, Coors offered her a sweet deal with everything that comes with the lead in their Halloween campaign, including more money than she had ever been contracted for. Elvira had replaced the Beer Wolf campaign that started a couple years prior. The cheeseball dog could only heal with the fresh taste of Coors Light. Looking for the next killer campaign, they wanted someone TV ready. And who else was as TV ready than someone who basically lived their witchy wench on the daily basis? Those cutouts of her in the ad were in every store, every display, creating crowds or just outright stolen. Either way, Coors gave Busch Beer a run for their money. Even if the conservative top brass at Coors did have her covering her milk stouts and lessening the peekaboo dress, they could not deny the campaign worked, and Elvira sold it. Halloween only comes but once a year, so the ads would only run about 3 to 4 weeks. Luckily, she wasn't stiffed from other moneymakers, and 2 years after the first special, and airing during the run of the first Coors advertisements, MTV thought they could not only strike gold, but hit the mother lode with a new 4-hour Halloween video special, including a visit to Salem, Massachusetts, and followed by Alice Cooper. Led by the hostess with the mostest, more skits, more videos, Elvira was now a real Hollywood B-status celebrity, and she would milk it for every penny. 1987 Halloween was just as outstanding for both Kors and Peterson, although the difficulty at the top was becoming more apparent. The Kors board may have been affected by the satanic scare of the 80s when they were getting more increasingly nervous of having this creature tout their product. It was all just becoming too unholy for the executives, and it would only get worse after Elvira starred in her first full-length motion picture in 1988. It was the perfect time for the Mistress of the Dark. It is one of the most hysterical outings that pile on Elvira's best in 90 minutes of non-stop nonsense.
Yeah, I think so.
How's your head?
I haven't had any complaints yet.
Demonstrating her acting chops, as well as cementing the premise of the character being both sexually driven and so overwhelmingly charming and refreshing with unbeatable comic timing, it is shocking that it initially bombed at the box office. Today, the underrated gem, who co-starred Edie McClurg of The Groundlings, is not just a cult classic, but the longest sleeper hit ever produced. Unless you're absurdly oversensitive to good, clean, raunchy sex jokes, one watch and you'll wonder why it flopped at release. Maybe if she hadn't discarded former neighbor Brad Pitt as too cute for her film, things might have gone down a little differently. Perhaps this 1988 big screen debut prompted the Kors bigwigs to have had enough. The puritanical views of those in charge of Kors were preparing to provide modest panels to retailers who had already had the Elvira cutouts to cover her unmentionables. And after even more work to lessen their sexual overtones, they're reported to have said when looking at the store displays for 1988, "I see demons there." This was the start of the end. Luckily, just because you hawk beer doesn't mean you can't become part of the choice of a new generation. With the Kors ad campaign on life support, Pepsi popped the big question and Elvira said yes to promote mug root beer. This was during the time Pepsi was using the Universal monsters in one of the most iconic Halloween ad campaigns of our time. The new connection with Pepsi, Universal, and Hollywood kept Elvira in the public eye and tied to Halloween, as seen with promotions that included sweepstakes at a party at the Psycho Mansion. But she kept busy between Halloweens during this time, starting in 1989 hosting Heavy Metal Heaven, a 6-part series about different heavy metal bands, followed up by a 20-episode run of Australia's Thriller Theatre, and even more straight-to-video work. Branded and easily packaged for the VHS renter, old movies and new talent were discovered by a bevy of horny teenagers during the weekend viewings.
How can you stand all those men looking at your body?
I don't even think about it anymore. When I perform, my mind is somewhere else. Like tonight, I thought of a new way to arrange my patio furniture.
Now I left you wanting more, and believe me, there's a lot more. Stay tuned for part 2, boys and ghouls. Coming up, Deja Vu with Kors, a music career, and the search for the next Elvira.
What do you say? You want the job?
Sure, why not?
Good. Now all I have to do is convince Sydney to hire you.
She may have been a product of Gen X, but Elvira would dabble in Y and Z when they came of age. We won't make you wait long, but don't just subscribe. Click the bell for alerts and drop me a comment about your memories of Halloween royalty, Her Majesty Elvira, and we can discuss it there. Come back next week, folks, where it just doesn't get any better than this. Seriously, it doesn't get any better. Thanks for enjoying the show. Now check out the channel for other frightening fare like this one. And don't forget, please consider supporting me with a like. And until next time.